The Hell in a Cell pay-per-view has just concluded, and while it was a pay-per-view filled with a lot of physicality, great effort, and great wrestling, the show was plagued a couple of times with its good old go-to finish. So we're going to get to that. I think you know what I'm talking about right after this.
My name is Mike De Niro, and I am 1/3 of the New York City rap group, the Lords of Gotham. I am also the host of the Wrestling DeLorean podcast. The Wrestling DeLorean podcast is your one-stop shop for all the news and notes around the wrestling world. We talk about everything from WWE to AEW, Impact Wrestling, New Japan Pro Wrestling, MLW, Ring of Honor, and beyond. But wait, there's more. We also go back in time and discuss all the events and moments that made us all fans. New episodes of the Wrestling DeLorean podcast drop Monday through Friday. Yes, 5 episodes a week, and you can find us wherever you enjoy your favorite podcasts. So what are you waiting for? Hop into Wrestling DeLorean, strap in your seatbelt, become a passenger of the Wrestling DeLorean podcast, and enjoy the ride, because it is going to be one hell of a good time.
Welcome to the WWE Podcast, your #1 source for the latest in WWE news and straightforward analysis.
Are you ready to get this thing going?
Give me a hell yeah! I said give me a hell yeah!
Then let's get this show started right now.
Okay, everybody. Hell in a Cell has concluded. We are now officially out of the Thunderdome era, the pandemic era, however you label it in WWE. In terms of pay-per-views, we are out of that era. In just a few short weeks, we have fans coming back, as we all know, which is why I didn't think there would be any big returns tonight. And that came to fruition. I didn't see a need to bring out any of your aces in the hole when nobody's there to cheer for them or boo them. I think the biggest impact should be when you have fans there. That'd create the most interest, a real guttural reaction from fans, and I think that's what you'll see starting with the first SmackDown, going into the Money in the Bank pay-per-view, and then the Monday Night Raw after. So quite a huge weekend shaping up, July 16th, or 15th, 17th, and 18th for your return to normalcy, or the return to the soul of wrestling. So if you can just hang on a few short weeks, guys, I think you'll be pleasantly surprised with how things feel. It's going to be great to see people back. And but that's not why we're here. We're here to talk about Hell in a Cell. And unfortunately, the Botch guy could not join me tonight for the first time in many, many months. We couldn't just get our schedules lined up for the evening. But you know what? That's okay. That's okay, because we can start anew when things return to normal at Money in the Bank, if I don't have him on beforehand. So, you know, certainly I think it's just a great way to kick off that new, fresh restart of fans back in an arena. So nonetheless, continue to follow him on YouTube. The guy's tearing it up. He's got a Twitch channel too, and he's got a Twitter. So search the Botch guy out, guys. You'll be doing yourself a favor. He was actually, from the comments I was reading from Twitter that he was posting anyway, he was very high on the women's Hell in a Cell match that opened the show. But we'll get to that a little bit later in the show. I would like to invite you, if you have Apple Podcasts and you have iOS 14.6 or later, consider subscribing to us on Apple Podcasts, because you get all of the shows ad-free through that button. You just click subscribe now where the normal feed is, and you'll get this show, obviously, and every other show that we've done over the last few days. We don't have the entire library added, but every show moving forward, and we will be moving Wrestling Nostalgia to the subscription only. So yes, it's remaining on Patreon, and you guys get that and everything else for $1, while Apple Podcasts is going to be getting every show that we are doing from about 3-4 days ago and forward forever, ad-free, as well as moving Wrestling Nostalgia, or really adding Wrestling Nostalgia, not moving it, but adding it to the podcast subscription field in Apple Podcasts. So, guys, check it out. Hit subscribe on Apple Podcasts, and there's a 3-day trial right now. So after that, it's just $2.99 a month, and it's Apple Podcasts. So I guess that's the best part, right? Most of our listeners do use Apple Podcasts, so I'd encourage you to check it out if you're interested and give it a try. You can do that for 3 days and see how you like it. All right, let's start out with what the show ended with. And I will say, if you were on the Discord server that I was on with our patrons over at patreon.com, which, by the way, was a blast. I mean, I really, really enjoyed interacting with you guys live in the moment, play-by-play, so to speak, during the pay-per-view. You guys were fun, made me think, and a few insults here and there towards me, all in good fun. And by the way, hit us up on Patreon if you want to join us there, where every pay-per-view you get to join the Discord server. But I will say, this was the Hell in a Cell match between Drew and Bobby was really good. Really from start to finish. Now, Bobby Lashley didn't exactly dish out the hurt on Drew, and I think that he has got too much assisting from MVP. If you're trying to build up Bobby Lashley versus Brock Lesnar, which is the assumption that a lot of people are making, and I think a very safe one to make, that WWE is trying to get to Brock versus Bobby Lashley. Well, wouldn't you want him to look like he doesn't need help with anything? I mean, Brock doesn't need help with anything. And if you're going to make it look like Beast versus Beast, well then, why are we having MVP help Bobby so damn much? I know they're trying to get creative. MVP is a hell of an asset. But if the goal is to get to Brock versus Bobby, the goal should then be beforehand to get Bobby to look as damn powerful and unstoppable as possible. Drew would recover just fine from a clean victory from Bobby. He would be just fine. So I will say that. That's one little nitpick I have, one of two that I have. And the second one is much, much bigger. That I think you guys know where I'm headed with that. But the match was really good. I mean, the spots that they had, some of them were brutal. The kendo stick, which I think is an overused weapon, by the way. I mean, it sounds nice, and it does leave welts on the competitors. I would argue it hurts more than a steel chair does, because steel chair doesn't leave welts. And I don't know. It's such a PG. It feels like such a PG weapon, doesn't it? I don't know. However, the use of the stairs, there were several chairs. The chemistry between these two was really, really good. Drew being stuck in the Hell in a Cell because of the kendo stick and him flipping off Bobby Lashley, I think that was just a heat of the moment thing. I don't think that was a planned spot. They try to kind of pan away from that. They didn't exactly zoom in on that, and they just called it Defiance. That was that was fun, and it was. I mean, I really haven't seen middle fingers on a WWE TV show in a very long time. I mean, maybe since even when Austin comes back, does he do it anymore? He just kind of holds his hands up like a fist. I don't think he throws up the middle fingers. I could be wrong there, but from another star, I can't remember the last time I've seen it. So that was a cool moment. I enjoyed that, and from there. We got some really good spots in terms of the Claymore. Once the ref went down, you knew that some kind of mumbo jumbo was going to happen. And some people, including the people in my Discord server, were speculating it could be Kofi to come in and screw Drew McIntyre out of the belt. Kofi turns heel. And that didn't happen. But MVP did get stuck in the cage, gets a Claymore, gets knocked down. You think he's a non-factor. And it gets back to Bobby and Drew just battling it out. Two heavyweights. The spot where Drew got the hurt lock locked in on him on the outside of the ring after MVP interfered, I thought, that's it, right? And no, they didn't. They did the table spot. And then after Drew is in full control again, of course you get MVP who is holding the leg of Drew, which leads to, I don't want to say it. I don't want to say it, but I have to. It leads to the most devastating finish in all of pro wrestling, the roll-up. And now I know that there may be a case to be made for this if you're trying to protect Drew, but Drew at this point is a made man. Had he lost clean to Bobby, yes, it would have brought Drew down a little, but only to the point where fans would say, "Whoa, what's going on here? What is Drew going to do now?" And while they're still saying that, given Drew lost, I think that they are at least going, "Whoa, he's human. He can be beat, and he can be beat straight up," while at the same time elevating Bobby instead of always giving the babyface an out. I think giving the heel an out, and the babyface. Why do we need to protect Drew that much? Do you think he's that fragile as a babyface? No. Fans love the comeback story. Why not tear Drew down only to bring him back up? A comeback story is what we live for, right? Comeback stories are inspiring. They're fun. And it's okay to see a star get broken down for a while because you want to know what he's going to do next, or she. And so that's not what happened here. Of course, they went for the cowardly, absolutely cowardly. There's no other way to put it. And I don't feel bad about saying that. I completely stand by it. It's a coward move. Absolutely yellow stripe down the back move to use a roll-up in a Hell in a Cell match for the purpose of protecting your babyface. There's no other reason to do it. That is the only reason to do it. And MVP interfering, which I think, again, it brings down all involved with that finish. For such a good match, it ends with that. I mean, think about this. You get a match that is just, I mean, they're tearing it up, right? Hitting each other with everything under the sun, smashing each other's faces into steel chairs on the ring, the apron that is, and into the steel cage or the cell. It's not a cage, it's a cell, I know. Belly to belly suplexes on the outside, through tables, everything but the kitchen sink. And boy, oh boy, nothing will faze them until they get to that roll up, huh? It's just so illogical that is more devastating than someone using all of their body weight to strike you in the face with their feet. It doesn't make sense. Or using a steel chair to the face. And yet that isn't enough. But the roll-up is? So not even from a booking perspective, but from just a logic perspective, this roll-up pandemic, it's a pandemic at this point. Right here at the WWE podcast, we are the CDC of wrestling. And we are declaring that roll-ups are a pandemic. And the only way to get a vaccine for this absolute devastating disease going around is to inject courage and a set of balls to creative to actually go for somebody, to decide that this person is your guy or not your guy, instead of this wishy-washy in between, everybody has a way to protect themselves finish. It is so cowardly to do. There's no other way to put it. I'm not even going to say it's lazy, because these people know what they're doing. At least Vince conceivably does. And this has been going on for quite some time. And I'm over it. I literally sat there on my couch and I had my jaw open that they actually did a roll-up finish for the main event in a Hell in a Cell. Can anyone tell me, and I really don't know, I'm not being facetious or sarcastic about this. When is the last time a Hell in a Cell match ended with a roll-up? Has it ever happened? I really don't know. So if anybody out there can let me know, I'd be very interested to know that stat. I have my doubts. Because you see, a Hell in a Cell match is a match that is designed for a finish of a program. It's designed for brutality. You could have done a roll-up in any match at all. I mean, a roll-up can be done in a just a normal match on Raw, on a house show, and you do a finish that is inside a legendary structure like the Cell. Furthermore, if I have to hear from whoever it is, Michael Cole or Corey Graves or Jimmy Smith or Pat McAfee, that the Cell could tear the flesh from your body one more time, I want to sit there and be like, prove it, show me how does this happen? How does the Cell tear the flesh from your body? Where? What part of the Cell exactly? Give me specifics. I understand it's a line, right? I understand what the meaning behind it is. It's a sadistic structure. Actually, no, it's a pretty simple structure. It's a structure that just is supposed to keep people from coming in and keep people from going out. At the same time, being slammed up against a mesh fence with a protective coating, by the way, that's what that red substance is. It's a protective coating. Doesn't hurt that much. I mean, they bounce off it essentially. And yes, there are support beams that absolutely are real. I mean, everything's real steel. I get that. But is it really the most sadistic structure? I mean, you guys have defined it down so much over the last several decades that it's really become almost meaningless to have a Hell in a Cell match because it's built into the schedule. So I don't know. I don't want to hear that it can tear the flesh from your bones anymore. I mean, it's just, how? Please, somebody explain. Okay, I'm sure that some of you are probably like, "Oh, it's not being so negative. It's a phrase, right?" But you hear it over and over and over and over and over. Okay, moving on though. But I did enjoy the match, and it was the right call. So there is that going for it. Again, the match was really good. I loved Bobby and Drew here, and it does beg the question though: what's next for Drew? Where does he go? Who does he have a feud with? Does he just disappear for a while? I would actually argue that's for the best. Maybe have Drew disappear until, after Money in the Bank. I doubt it, though. He'll probably be in the Money in the Bank ladder match, I'm sure. But I don't know, because if he is, he can't challenge Bobby. So maybe they keep him out. And I don't think fans would be exceptionally excited to see Drew in yet another championship opportunity. So perhaps he does go into something completely different or just disappear for quite a while. Maybe he disappears till SummerSlam. Take some time off, man. Take some time off. I know that fans are coming back, but fans are going to be there when you get back. The pandemic is all but over, especially for these events. So, take some time. Let fans learn to miss you. I mean, he's been the workhorse since the pandemic started, and he's the face of the pandemic era, whether he likes it or not, or the Thunderdome era, whoever they would love to soften it up. And he's done a hell of a job. I mean, all the credit in the world to Drew, but it's time for us to miss him. It's time for us to see what the world is like without a Drew McIntyre for a while. That's what I would want. Do I think they're going to do that? No, I don't. You know why? Because they are paper thin on baby faces, especially big ones. And they need Drew on a weekly basis. So I don't think they will because they can't afford to. It's plainly put. So it is going to be interesting, though, to see who he jumps into a program with. It better not be United States title picture. Okay. Keep him away from gold. Get into a personal program. Show us some range and depth a little, add to your character. This is the time to just kind of add nuances to your character. Add some new phrases. Try to come up with some new new catchphrases and different things to your character, so that when you come back around full circle and you're back into the title picture, it doesn't feel like the same old Drew doing the same old thing with his kilt and his sword, that he's not going to really do anything with. I mean, it's just, I hope he takes the time to do this if they're going to keep him there regularly. I hope that they do it. But okay, moving on to another match. Seth Rollins, Cesaro. Do I dare say this one also ended in the ultra devastating roll-up? But again, we've been through this just for the last 20 minutes, so I don't want to rehash what I just said about roll-ups. The fact that there was 2 on a pay-per-view is, I mean, it's asinine. It's asinine. I have nothing left to say, but let's talk about the match itself. I thought it was good. I thought it was as good, almost as good as could be expected. And the thing is, you have such a high bar for these two because they're so damn good together and such professionals in and of themselves, that I think that an unfairly high bar was set on this from an in-ring perspective. But I think they met that bar. I really do. I don't know what you can't, even as great world-class performers as these two are, you can't always get a classic out of them, even if the chances are much higher than anyone else being put together. They really, I think, did a great job. I was surprised by the finish, not by the roll-up. We just talked about that, but rather that Seth won. I really was. I was wrong on this. And I think most people that predicted this match were wrong with Seth Rollins getting the victory. But it makes sense, and it makes sense because they want to continue this program, likely one more pay-per-view, which is Money in the Bank in 4 weeks on, Sunday, July 18th. So 4 weeks from tonight, we'll be talking about Money in the Bank. But this was a good match, and again, it made sense for Seth to win. I think Seth needed a victory, now that I think about it, even though I did pick Cesaro, admittedly. Seth needs a victory to kind of keep things going. And a roll-up, while it's not my favorite finish, did make sense to continue things, I guess, although you can come up with several different ways other than a damn roll-up. Like I tweeted out, it was either in Twitter or my Discord server, where I said that, there's other finishes you can do for heels that they win and it still protects the babyface. Like having the manager pull on their feet. Like having the good old foreign object in your hands, like with what William Regal used to do when he was competing in WWE in the early to mid 2000s with the brass knuckles. I mean, there are things you can do like that still exist, and they won't do it. But nonetheless, I thought this is a good match. I'm looking forward to the next one. Did you really, really think that they were going to end this program here when they still have one more pay-per-view to go before SummerSlam? No, but I'm good with it. I really am good with it because I think they're going to make really a hell of a showing again at the next pay-per-view, Money in the Bank. Alrighty, let's take a quick break, and then we're going to get to Alexa Bliss versus Shayna Baszler. And believe it or not, I don't have a lot of negative to say about this match. I know it's a shocker, but I was higher on this match than I think a lot of people were. So we're going to get to that, and of course, round out the rest of the matches and results of the pay-per-view right after this.
My name is Mike De Niro, and I am 1/3 of the New York City rap group, the Lords of Gotham. I am also the host of the Wrestling DeLorean podcast. The Wrestling DeLorean podcast is your one-stop shop for all the news and notes around the wrestling world. We talk about everything from WWE to AEW, Impact Wrestling, New Japan Pro Wrestling, MLW, Ring of Honor, and beyond. But wait, there's more. We also go back in time and discuss all the events and moments that made us all fans. New episodes of the Wrestling DeLorean podcast drop Monday through Friday. Yes, 5 episodes a week, and you can find us wherever you enjoy your favorite podcasts. So what are you waiting for? Hop in the Wrestling DeLorean, strap in your seatbelt, become a passenger of the Wrestling DeLorean podcast, and enjoy the ride, because it is going to be one hell of a good time.
Welcome back to the WWE Podcast. Let's get back to more great wrestling audio.
Alrighty, everybody. So let's get to Alexa Bliss and Shayna Baszler. And going into this match, I think that the outcome was a little bit foreseen, as a lot of the matches perceivably were, going into the pay-per-view. And Alexa Bliss getting the victory, again, not a surprise. Is it the right move? That's debatable, because I think a lot of people look at Shayna as a breath of fresh air in the women's division. Among some of the blondes that are just all about the looks, WWE has resexualized some of the women. Alexa Bliss's hocus pocus nonsense that's getting a little bit overused, and Shayna Baszler is she's a palate cleanser. She really is, and I think that having her go against Alexa Bliss in her first singles program back was a big mistake, because Shayna is a character you actually want to protect, because her character is the opposite of being afraid of anything. And yet she acted like, a bad horror film schoolgirl running from a slasher type movie. It was, 2 weeks ago, of course, on Raw, the much panned and destroyed segment that closed Raw a couple weeks ago. That said, the match was okay. It wasn't anything special having Shayna Baszler versus Alexa Bliss, and I don't think it did Shayna Baszler any favors here. You have Shayna Baszler losing to Alexa Bliss in what was an okay match. It's nice to see Alexa back in the ring, by the way. She's still pretty good. The story is just whack. Have I ever used that word on the show? I don't think I have. It's just whack. It is. And the weirder part of this was, while they didn't completely get rid of all the hocus pocus in this matchup with, her transformation that she used to do back in the day, which I actually do miss. They didn't really flesh that out enough, or bringing Lily back or anything kind of like that, or, shooting fire from her eyeballs or whatever the heck she may try to do. They did do a hypnotic type of power. She does have some kind of superpower where she can hypnotize you by looking at you. Okay. It's kind of like the Wyatt family and Daniel Bryan all over again. What is this? I'll go for it. I'm not crapping on it, because if they're going to do something with her character that's a little hocus pocus, because that's what her character is, this is the mildest form of hocus pocus that you could do. So I don't know what you expected them to do with this character. Just have her give up and go back to the goddess? You can't. You have to have Alexa Bliss do and utilize some part of her character that makes sense. And hypnosis is like the least hocus pocus thing that they could do. So I'm fine with it. All she did was look at somebody weird, and they just zoned out. Nia Jax and her had a screaming match. Nia Jax ended up slapping Reginald, and she didn't know why she did it. And, Shayna Baszler had to cut off her eye contact with Alexa because she didn't want to get sucked in, or I guess, or brainwashed, whatever kind of power that Alexa Bliss possesses. Again, it's the mildest form of that type of character's abilities. So I'm okay with it. I really, really am. I just hope Shayna Baszler and her separate. I don't let's pretend this didn't happen for Shayna. Let's have Shayna Baszler get into a program she can actually sink her teeth into. That's really what I want for Shayna. So the other thing, as far as the women go, they got, and I'll get to the Hell in a Cell match in just a minute, but the kickoff show match between Natalya and Mandy Rose, that was really good. I expected actually Mandy Rose to win, but with the tag team champions there and them holding the belts, I didn't, you had your doubts. Natalya wins and loses every week. As far as like flip-flopping back and forth, she's the definition usually of a 50-50 booked character. But she's got the tag belts now with Tamina. And I really thought Mandy Rose was going to, get the victory here, and she didn't. But that said, this match was the definition of getting a victory in a loss. And what I mean by that is, yes, Mandy Rose lost. But is she elevated? If you sit back and ask yourself, has she elevated herself and her character even in this loss? I think unequivocally she has. That was a really good match with Natalya. Now, Natalya being a grizzled vet, it is due some of the credit because at this point, she's a ring general. She can carry a match. But Mandy Rose did her part too. I loved what they did here. And, again, even in a loss, I think Mandy Rose elevated herself. I even like the little scuttlebutt that they had behind the scenes talking, trash to one another about how you clearly didn't get in here because of your ability, right? Kind of saying you guys got on here because you look cute, versus them lashing back to Tamina and Natalya saying, well, if it wasn't for your last name, I don't think you'd be here either. I mean, it was good stuff. Simple, easy to follow. I normally don't get high on kickoff show matches. This was good. It was surprisingly good because I guess anything that involves Mandy Rose, I don't have a high expectation for. So congrats to really the women there who put on a good match, really good match for a kickoff match. So now let's get to the women's end of the Hell in a Cell with, of course, the SmackDown Women's Champion Bianca Belair versus Bayley. And really good match. Really good match with both women here just laying it all on the line and just put their best foot forward. Do I think this was as good of a match between Bayley and Bianca as it was Bianca and Sasha at WrestleMania? No, that's going to be a hard match to follow. That was an instant classic on their part. But this was a great showing for Bayley. It really was. She showed how tough she was. I think that's been missing behind all the laughing. And she reminded you that she can go in the ring. And she can go in the ring. And she can take a beating. And same with Bianca, who you remember how athletic she is. You remember that she can be tough. When pushed, she can be violent. And the finish of the match with the KOD on top of the ladder, great spot. I mean, that's how you finish a Hell in a Cell match. Something as violent as that. Somebody crashing on top of a ladder through something. That's how you end a Hell in a Cell match. And, you would assume this program is over. That's a scary assumption because I don't know, given that, there's still one more pay-per-view to go before we get to SummerSlam. So is that pit stop still with Bayley, or is it with Carmella and Bayley and Bianca in a triple threat? Perhaps. I think there's going to be some kind of mix there where Bayley's not totally done. Maybe even Sasha comes back and is a fatal four-way. I mean, there's lots of options here, for sure. I just know I'm excited for whatever Bianca Belair is doing. I mean, she has done such an excellent job as champion. She feels the part. She looks the part. She has gained more confidence on the microphone. From top to bottom, she is becoming a polished performer quickly. And I'm excited for her. Out of the two women's champions, Bianca Belair, by leaps and bounds, feels like a more legitimate champion. So I'm excited for her and really what she's getting into next. I think that whatever it is isn't going to matter. I think she's going to hold that belt for quite some time, as she should. So, all right, let's move on to Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens. And what do you expect here? I mean, this, you could argue, is the match of the night in terms of quality and drama. This was really good. I mean, but what the hell do you expect from two guys that have fought each other hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times? The answer is you should expect nothing less than just greatness. And we all know they're best friends in real life, which adds to the chemistry, and they're just kind of being able to loosen up and not worry about how hard you're hitting your opponent and just do what you do. And they were very good together. Austin, jeez, I'm thinking of Austin, but KO hits the stunner on the outside of the ring. However, Sami Zayn was able to get the haluba kick and cleanly beat KO. Cleanly. That's amazing. And I'm actually excited for Sami Zayn to get that victory. That could arguably be Sami Zayn's biggest victory in months, beating Kevin Owens. Because he's been squandering and wallowing in this conspiracy theory nonsense that he still is, but he hasn't been winning matches while he's done it. Every time he just continues to lose matches and then blame it on this mythical conspiracy theory. Well, now he got a victory. And I'm sure that he's going to just lay into this victory for quite some time. And I am very high on this match, high on both competitors. And I don't think this is over. It's not. It is not over. So I think Money in the Bank is the final resting place for these two for hopefully a while. But again, this is a program that doesn't get old. That's hard to say about a lot of programs that just feel like they continue forever. All right, Charlotte and Rhea Ripley. Another bizarre finish. And it's hard, this one I have... I hate DQ finishes in general because it's just so overused, much like the roll-up. But in this case, did it make sense? Maybe. You could make a stronger case for this finish than I think you could make for a Bobby Lashley roll-up finish, considering you're trying to get him ready for Brock Lesnar, and he's relying on his manager to help him during the match, and then you get just kind of a fluke roll-up. But is the DQ finish warranted here? Maybe. Because which one do you want to beat clean? The answer is none. And with good reason, right? You really do want to protect Charlotte and protect Rhea because they both need to be protected right now. Rhea Ripley, you're women's champion since early April. Charlotte is Charlotte freaking Flair, and you need her to be at the top of her game and look as strong as possible and, work with any baby faces that come in. But the problem is Rhea Ripley is no longer a baby face. She can't be. The way that she won was by disqualification, as we know, using the top of the table, like the protective plastic piece over the monitors of the announcers, was used to be thrown at Charlotte. So, first of all, how does the referee decide that this is a disqualification? Yet, throughout a normal wrestling match with normal rules in place, you can use any tools on the outside of the ring, slam your opponent into the steel steps, smash their face off the announce table, and the ref goes, "Oh, you just can't take it off and throw it at them." That's the drawing, or that's the line in the sand. Is taking that plastic piece off and throw. Really? Kind of weak. It was weak, no doubt. And I understand the finish for them. I think that she has much better chemistry with Charlotte than she does with Asuka. Rhea, that is. So Rhea Ripley continues to feel weird with the women's championship, I have to say. Rhea Ripley feels very, very strange with the Raw Women's Championship. Doesn't quite seem to fit the bill. However, if she has a defined role as a heel now, which presumably she does, because if you listen to that crowd reaction, it was boos, right? Same for Charlotte. And Rhea also said on the way up the ramp that I didn't do anything you wouldn't have done. I just did it sooner. Well, again, just because, if that's her reasoning, if that's Rhea's reasoning for doing it is because she was going to do it before Charlotte could, and she just did something that, Charlotte would have done. That's like saying to, saying to your parents, they would have done it too, right? Like you get in trouble for, I don't know. You get in trouble for staying out late when you shouldn't. And your parents say, "Oh, where were you?" And you say, "I was at a friend's house." And you get caught lying. And then you say, "Well, they would have lied too. My friends would have lied too." So, that doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. Just because somebody else does something that is not right doesn't give you the moral obligation to do it yourself. That there's no logic in that. In fact, it makes you a bad person. Because you're doing something is wrong. And yet you're choosing to absorb the habits of the people that are doing those wrong things for the sake of doing those wrong things instead of doing the right thing to win the match. Because there's more than one way to win a match. So Rhea has to be heel. My whole roundabout point in this, she has to be heel, which we all assume is for Becky Lynch to come back and face. Because Lord knows we've seen enough Charlotte Becky for a while, even though it's been a long time. I think fans would look at that and go, oh, Charlotte Becky again? Really? This is where we're going? I think fans would feel that way. So Rhea and Becky feels a lot more fun. Because I can't remember the last time I've seen it, if ever. I don't know if I have. So yes, cement Rhea Ripley as a heel, and you'll be off to the races when Becky returns, presumably in a few weeks to a month or a month and a half, sometime before SummerSlam. One would assume. So there is that. By the way, guys, if you haven't seen McIntyre's picture that was posted by WWE on Fox, the verified account WWE on Fox. It's labeled Battle Scars, and the shots that he took from Lashley are shown on the back of McIntyre. Yikes! I mean, how is a kendo stick better than using any other object? I'm not saying chair shots to the skull, but how is this okay? That kendo sticks, which are just, oh my God. I mean, getting hit with one, just sends chills up my spine. And the way that, with all this damage, and I'm looking at the picture right now, so you should see this picture as I'm explaining this. The way that Drew McIntyre was no-selling those shots while he was getting hit by Lashley with the kendo stick is a testament to the true toughness of McIntyre, that he no-sold it. Given the devastation on his back that you'll see, you look at that and go, oh my God, and he no-sold this? So credit to McIntyre. Again, that match was hard fought. It's just the ending I have a problem with. All right, guys. Well, I think that does it for my Hell in a Cell wrap-up here. I don't think I missed anything here. We got, of course, Lashley retaining the championship as a review. Ripley loses via DQ. Sami Zayn beats Kevin Owens. Alexa Bliss defeats Shayna Baszler in just a controversial match. Seth Rollins defeats Cesaro. Bianca Belair pins Bayley, and just, I think, one of the best women's Hell in a Cell matches in recent memory. And then, yes, we did get Natalya defeating Mandy Rose via submission at the kickoff show. So, again, I thought it was a solid pay-per-view, unfortunately plagued by just the continuation of the lazy, cowardly finishes to matches. There's no other way to put it. There's really not. So, guys, I hope you've enjoyed this. If you want an ad-free experience, if you didn't already, click subscribe on Apple Podcasts. You're going to get this show, of course, ad-free. Every show we've done for the last few days, ad-free. Every show moving forward, ad-free. And I'm moving Wrestling Nostalgia, kind of copying it over to the Apple Podcast feed. Everything's staying on Patreon. Nothing's changing. And for $1, you still get all this. But for 3 days for free, you can try the subscription on Apple Podcasts. You have to have an iPhone and iOS 14.6 or later, and you'll be able to click that subscribe button on Apple Podcasts and check it out for 3 days. And if you like it, you can do $2.99 a month, and you don't have to worry about downloading another podcast app, anything like that. If you love Apple Podcasts, then it's right there. You don't have to worry about it. So, guys, that's it for me tonight for the Hell in a Cell review. I'm sure I'll have wrap-up thoughts as we get to the Monday Night Raw review. There'll be a ton to talk about, I'm sure, as we count down the freaking days to fans coming back. I can't wait. You can't wait. And there's just a few shows left of Raw and SmackDown in the Thunderdome. So that is extremely exciting. Guys, as always, thank you so much for listening. I will be back Tuesday night with a Monday Night Raw review, and I'll talk to you next time.
My name is Mike De Niro, and I am 1/3 of the New York City rap group, the Lords of Gotham. I am also the host of the Wrestling DeLorean podcast. The Wrestling DeLorean podcast is your one-stop shop for all the news and notes around the wrestling world. We talk about everything from WWE to AEW, Impact Wrestling, New Japan Pro Wrestling, MLW, Ring of Honor, and beyond. But wait, there's more. We also go back in time and discuss all the events and moments that made us all fans. New episodes of the Wrestling DeLorean podcast drop Monday through Friday. Yes, 5 episodes a week, and you can find us wherever you enjoy your favorite podcasts. So what are you waiting for? Hop in the Wrestling DeLorean, strap in your seatbelt, become a passenger of the Wrestling DeLorean podcast, and enjoy the ride, because it is going to be one hell of a good time.